BJ Mafia was popping. So if you go back to the 2023 NBA trade deadline, the Brooklyn Nets had sent away both of their superstar players in both Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, two of the most prolific offensive players this game has ever seen. They first traded away Kyrie Irving to the Dallas Mavericks in exchange for Dorian Finney-Smith, Spencer Dinwiddie, and some draft compensation. They then followed that up by trading away Kevin Durant to the Phoenix Suns. But I'm here to talk about today why Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic, this duo and this pairing is not going to work out, and why this Dallas Mavericks team in general is overrated come postseason time. So let's actually talk about that here today. Now, before I actually dive deep into this first topic, talking about it in depth, let me actually take a moment to preface my comments by saying that Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, offensively speaking, this is probably the best duo in basketball. I don't think that there's even a question about it. Maybe you could say Kevin Durant and Devin Booker in their short time together prior to KD going down with his injury. But I think that Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, these guys are sensational. These guys are obviously two of the most prolific offensive players in the game today. Kyrie is one of the most talented players that has ever played offensively speaking, talking about scoring on all three levels, the ability to create and play make for others that Luka can do. These guys are unstoppable when you talk about them offensively. So I wanted just to preface my comments by giving them their props, giving them a moment to talk about why they're so great. But let's actually talk about this video though. Now, getting into the first topic, the first reason why the Dallas Mavericks are extremely overrated is one, their roster construction. Now, Mark Cuban had to plunge after Kyrie Irving, after he had basically demanded a trade from the Brooklyn Nets organization. He needed to do something to show Luka Doncic that we're willing to put another superstar player around you, and they decided to plunge on Kyrie Irving, even though he will be an unrestricted free agent at the end of the summer. But when you talk about the Dallas Mavericks roster and the way it's actually constructed around their two superstars in Luka and Kyrie Irving, this roster is not great. There is no way you expect me or any other NBA fan out there to believe in guys like Dwight Powell, Christian Wood, Tim Hardaway Jr., Frank Ntilikina, Josh Green, the list goes on. These are all solid role players at best, but you need to surround Kyrie and Luka with shooters. These guys are not capable shooters. None of these guys are consistent double-digit rebound guys, especially guys in the interior when you're talking about guys like Dwight Powell and Christian Wood. But then also kind of giving up guys like Dorian Finney-Smith, a great 3-and-D guy, a guy who played to his role, another guy like Spencer Dinwiddie who can contribute and be a bucket offensively speaking. Yes, we know Kyrie can do that, but when you look at the roster around them, I don't believe in these guys. When you talk about guys like Josh Green, Reggie Bullock, Christian Wood, Dwight Powell, Frank Ntilikina, Tim Hardaway Jr., the list goes on, Maxi Kleber, I do not believe in this roster construction around them. And like I said, this is a moment where Mark Cuban and the organization had to plunge on another superstar, so I applaud them for that. But I don't believe in the roster construction around Kyrie and Luka Doncic. They need a bunch of shooters around them, and they definitely need a guy who can man it down in the middle. I don't believe in Dwight Powell and Christian Wood on the interior. Now let's actually talk about the pairing of Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic and why it's been extremely overrated. Let's actually talk about when they've been on the court together. The Dallas Mavericks have 3-6. In the 9 games, Luka and Kyrie, as sensational as they are, have played together. They've won 3 games and they've lost 6, and those 3 wins are not as impressive as you might think. They barely beat the Utah Jazz, they beat the San Antonio Spurs, and then the Philadelphia 76ers game that they won, while that was a great game to watch on primetime television, that win is not as impressive as you think, because not only did the Dallas Mavericks end up essentially blowing that lead before they finally closed it out at the end, but also the Sixers were playing on a road back-to-back. They were in Miami the night before, prior to going to Dallas and playing that game. But nonetheless, the Dallas Mavericks are 3-6 with Luka and Kyrie on the floor, as great and talented as that duo is. And it feels like Kyrie Irving has fit in pretty seamlessly when it comes to the pairing with Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks overall. Kyrie, in his time with Luka Doncic in the 9 games that they've played together, is averaging 28, 5, and 6 on 52, 40, 92 splits, so 50, 40, 90. And that's extremely impressive for the kind of efficiency that Kyrie has, especially when you consider how many shots a game he takes. But when you flip it over to Luka's pairing with Kyrie Irving in the games that they've played together, I definitely feel like you see some tendency breakers, and you see Luka having to adjust because he's so used to having the ball predominantly in his hands all the time from his days in Euroball to come into the NBA. Luka is averaging 38 and 7 on 47, 32, 76% splits. He's shooting 60.3 in terms of his true shooting percentage, which is a much better percentage than his career 58.1 from his true shooting percentage with Kyrie Irving on the court. In those 9 games they've played together, he is a -5 win on the court, and his usage rate has taken a a little bit of a dip, which is something that you would expect at a 36.7. Now, why do I bring all of that up? Because if you look at it on paper, yes, those stats are incredible, especially when you look at Kyrie Irving and his level of efficiency that you've seen in their short time together. But nonetheless, a record of 3-6 is not going to cut it together, even though there has been some close games, especially that Phoenix Suns game. And also, you look at Luka's numbers, I don't know how this is going to work out in the fourth quarter when it comes to closing out games, who's going to take the last shot and who's really going to take over, because let me drive home that next point. Now, getting into that next point, when you talk about the fourth quarters of these games, this is exactly where the Dallas Mavericks are going to struggle, because we do know that defensively they are going to have a bunch of liabilities because they do not have any great defenders, especially on the wing. But in the fourth quarter, when it comes to Luka and Kyrie sharing the ball, taking the shots, this is where it gets tricky. Let's actually look at the stats, because Luka Doncic in the fourth quarter of these games is only averaging 4 points, 2 rebounds, and 1 assist on 2.5 field goal attempts. Flip it over to Kyrie Irving. He's averaging 11, 2, and 1 on 7 field goal attempts and 3 3-point attempts in the fourth quarters of these games. And I bring up this point about the fourth quarter because we do understand that in the fourth quarter of these games, we've seen Kyrie be a clutch shot maker in the past. We've seen Luka Doncic hit his fair share of clutch shots in the past. But with both of these guys on the court, while they're both capable of taking the last shot, who's actually going to take it, and especially taking over in the fourth quarters, because that is a huge discrepancy. When you look at Luka Doncic not even averaging 3 field goal attempts in the fourth quarter, you look at Kyrie, who's taking about 7 field goal attempts in the fourth quarter. While he is efficient, let's see what this is going to do, especially once we get closer to the postseason, which we're only a couple of weeks away. And especially in the postseason, I don't expect this to get any better, because both Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic have both been out with injury. Kyrie just came back the other night and had a phenomenal game versus the Lakers. And like I briefly mentioned earlier with their defensive liabilities, in 59 games this season without Kyrie Irving on the court, the Dallas Mavericks had a 116.3 defensive rating. In the games that they've had with Kyrie, 120.1. So you see that their defense does get worse, and they're already not a great defensive team. Now, yes, of course, when you flip it over to the other side of the ball, yes, their offensive rating will go up a little bit, but I still consistently worry about their defense, especially in the half-court offense. I do not trust none of their wing defenders and nobody on the interior consistently in a 7-game series. But now to kind of wrap up this video, let me just say yet again that while Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic, this is one of the most talented and skillful duos in the game of basketball, this duo is not going to go far in the postseason. They are going to be a first-round exit in this year's postseason. I don't believe in the pairing of Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving this season. I don't believe in the roster construction around them. And who knows if Kyrie Irving will even get a $200 million+ deal from the Dallas Mavericks or another organization for that matter. Only time will tell. But unless the Dallas Mavericks hit a huge break in the postseason and the opponent that they're going up against has some serious injury issues, who knows if they even advance in this year's playoffs, and who even knows if the Dallas Mavericks will even make this year's postseason, considering the fact that they're right on the brink of being in this year's play-in tournament. But NBA fans and Mavericks fans, I want to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Being completely rational, do you guys see this Dallas Mavericks duo and pairing working out? How far does this team get into the postseason? Like I said, I personally believe the Dallas Mavericks will be out in the first round of this year's NBA postseason. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But if you guys enjoyed today's video, man, make sure you guys drop me a thumbs up. It takes 1 second and it helps me in the channel out tremendously. And if you guys are new here, consider hitting that subscribe bell to stay tuned for more NBA content that I do here on YouTube. And make sure that you guys go follow me on my socials on Twitter, Instagram, and on TikTok. I'm very active and I'm on there every single day. The link tree will be in the description down below. But thanks again for sticking around throughout the whole video. Brett James, aka BJ. I'm out, y'all. Peace.